All right. Good morning, everybody. How are we all feeling? Has everyone had their coffee or preferred wake-up juice of choice? Yeah. Woo! All right. It's so lovely to be here. I've been wanting to come to PyCon for a long time. I've heard so many good things about this conference, so it's so great to finally be here. I'm sad I couldn't make it yesterday. I was at an 80th. It was the rager you thought it would be. It started at 2, finished at 7. Great. All parties should start at 2 and finish at 7. My name is Larene. Quick hands up. Who has heard about digital accessibility or accessibility in general before? Woohoo! All right. Quite a few hands up. For those who haven't heard of digital accessibility or accessibility before, it is the field or discipline of, think of a shopping mall and the knowledge or theory to make that particular building compliant or usable by people with disabilities in particular. It does get confused a little bit with accessibility of like being able to access something like the internet or being able to log in. But when I talk about digital accessibility, it's about how do we make apps in the web more usable for people with various needs and disabilities. I've been doing accessibility for about 10 years formally now, but unofficially I was doing accessibility a little while before that. I'm currently at a company called Canva, which is a visual design application. My slides are in Canva at the moment. I'm the team lead for accessibility, and you're probably all wondering how accessible Canva is. It's actually a huge amount of progress have been made in the last 5 years that the accessibility team has been, probably 6 years now, the accessibility team has been around, which is before my time. There's some interesting challenges left, but the great thing is that leadership is absolutely committed to making Canva the most inclusive design application ever built. So a bit of a content warning if you haven't read my abstract. I'm doing a bit of a different talk today, and I'll be talking a lot about disability and personal experiences. I think it's very important not to downplay the impact of discrimination and exclusion. So I do want to mention that there'll be brief mentions of ableism, depression, shame, mental health issues throughout the presentation. I won't dwell too much on them, but please do keep that in mind. I'm a bit sweary as well. I hope that's okay. So I won't dwell on things too much, but if you do need to take care of yourself, please do. So as I mentioned, a bit of a different presentation to what I usually do. I like to kind of do a very practical presentation with tips and tricks on how to make your software more accessible. Today, I'm going to tell a personal story about my dad and me. Here's a picture of him having his cuppa. I've just put an emoji over his face because I don't want his real face on the internet. I'm really excited to share this story with you. But before we dive in, now I did hear the internet was a little bit spotty. I have a bit of a quiz or survey for you all. If you could please join in and let me know if there are any issues with the quiz. Hopefully it's set up. There's a QR code that's on the screen, but otherwise you can join at slido.com. So what I want to find out is what functions do you usually use on a microwave? And if you use the defrost function, I do want to talk to you today because I need to learn how do you defrost chicken without cooking it on the outside and having it still frozen on the inside. I have no idea. I've still not worked it out. While you're filling that in, so answer as many times as you want. Fun fact, in 1945, the microwave was invented by an engineer named Percy Spencer. And the way that he found out how to use microwave technology was he's actually at work with a chocolate bar in his pocket. And he worked with a device called the magnetron. I can't remember what it was for exactly. I think it was to do with military or something fun like that. He realized when he was standing next to the magnetron, when it was turned on, the chocolate bar in his pocket would actually melt. I don't know about the OH&S policies at this workplace, but and now we have the microwave, which a lot of us use today. How are we going on that quiz? Thumbs up, still answering? I won't be revealing the results now. I'll reveal them a little bit later. You'll find out why. All right. So I grew up in a little seaside town in Queensland. And as quickly as I could, I left that seaside town and went to university in Brisbane. But when I was in university, I would visit my parents every single holidays. And every other holiday, my mum would take an opportunity to go and visit her parents in Taiwan. And Dad and I didn't get to go with her. And the reason for this is because Mum's very traditionally Chinese, and it's actually quite shameful to bring home a husband who has a disability or multiple disabilities. Or maybe that's just what she tells me, because she's more ashamed that I didn't become a doctor. So there's a very uncomfortable truth about this in terms of, in Western societies, I think we've made quite a bit of progress in terms of stigma and normalizing disability and talking about it. In other cultures, though, there is less or maybe different types of progress in terms of disability. And Chinese culture, at least with my mum's family in particular, there is a lot around saving face and avoiding shame, and those are very, very important things to her family. This didn't mean that Mum treated Dad badly, completely the opposite. She looked after him very, very well. And the reason why she didn't bring Dad home was to protect her own mental health. And I wanted to share this because I wanted to call out that discrimination, as we know, is not one-dimensional. It's very nuanced, and that's why understanding intersectionality is very, very important when talking about exclusion and discrimination and privilege as well. For those who haven't heard about intersectionality, it's the concept of multiple factors about a person: gender, age, disability, political views that compound to form compounding effects of either privilege or discrimination. And this was coined by someone called Kimberly Crenshaw. So before Dad turned 80, he was able to live alone just fine, totally independent. But Mum would worry if I wasn't there, so every time she went to Taiwan, she would want me to come home. And so on one of these uni holidays that I was home with Dad, and of course I enjoyed Dad's company and and stuff as well. He particularly enjoys the tech support. And one holidays, I broke our microwave. Yes. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was a little bit of a bigger problem than you might think. So in his 50s, Dad started to lose his vision, so around when I was born. He has a genetic eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa, RP for short. And there are lots of different types of vision loss. RP is a particular one where you develop a sort of a tunnel vision. So it's like looking through a black paper tube where the end of the tube gets smaller and smaller and smaller over the years, and the vision at the end of the tube gets progressively more blurry. And eventually, the person with RP is likely not able to see anything at all. And when I was a kid, there was quite a few years that Dad and I would play board games. We'd play chess, Chinese checkers, though I think that's probably called something different now. Monopoly was the favorite. We never made it onto D&D or Magic the Gathering or any of those cool games that I'm sure a lot of us play. But I don't remember the exact time or the exact moment when Dad and I played our last board game. But I think it's somewhere around when he was in his 60s, when he went into a bit of a deep depression. And that's when the last of his vision started to go. I remember he spent a lot of time in his room, Mum spent a lot of time overseas. I was left at home to take care of the house and hang out with Dad. I was a bit of a shitty teenager. So one of the benefits of having a blind and pretty deaf dad was I was able to hold a party at my house after he went to bed, and he didn't know. In grade 12. Probably should go to therapy for that, but thought I'd do conference talks instead. So yeah, by the time I got to uni, Dad was pretty much completely blind. Okay, so back to the microwave story. So when I was, during the holidays, I had, I think it was about 2007, 8, 9, 10, sometime. Pre-COVID is just a blur. I had a very millennial urge one day to make jam. So I went on to taste.com.au, a website for recipes, and I looked up the recipe for strawberry jam. For those who don't know, it's strawberries, lemon juice, and way too much sugar. Way too much. Took me a while to want to eat jam again. And so throw all those into a bowl and put it for 20 minutes into the microwave. Our microwave was pretty ancient. It's a very 70s beige and black. I've got it pictured on the screen. The brand is National. That doesn't exist anymore. I think they got bought out by Panasonic. This is a super, super simple design. It has two knobs. At the top is the minutes knob, and at the bottom is the power knob. I don't think we even had a start button like the one pictured here. You just turn the minutes knob and it would start to count down. So I put in the bowl of strawberries, turn the dial up to 20 minutes, and the second dial to high, and then the microwave started to go. It's cooking my jam. And about 15 minutes in, I heard this pop. And then I heard the microwave power down, and the inside light went off. I had broken Dad's beloved microwave. But never fear, we had a Harvey Norman in town. So next day we went to Harvey Norman. For those who don't know, Harvey Norman's a, what is it? Furniture, electronics, all those things. And I took Dad to the microwave aisle. We looked through the large range of microwaves there. And by looked, I mean Dad touched each one a whole lot. After he was looking for a few minutes, he turned to me and he went, "Is there any microwaves with buttons or knobs or dials?" Every single microwave in Harvey Norman at that time had a totally flat touch panel and an LCD screen. And there were a few ones there that did have rotating dials, but they were the digital ones, which turn forever, and you have to be able to see the LCD screen to know what you were actually turning. Now, this wasn't some early kind of noughties trend, early 2000s trend. The touch panel actually came out pretty soon after Dad bought his initial microwave in the 70s and 80s. And this was invented, I think, by Panasonic as well. So why have this LCD and touch panel combo? A few things. Firstly, less moving parts, which is easy to clean and less things can break. Cheap to manufacture at scale, and easily programmable, so you can add more features to it every year and sell a new model and make more money. But who doesn't want these new fancy functions like potato or oriental? Yes, so, and this is where the survey comes in, because I'm really excited to see who uses potato, because there's some of you out there, I know, I've done this before. All right, so I'm going to quickly do a bit of a, hopefully, not too arduous screen change. So, thank you so much, everyone, for participating. How many have we got? We've got 110, amazing. It seems like some live stream folks joined in as well, so thank you. So, 97% of you pressed start, which is great, good sign. 88% of you pressed open door, so 12% of you have pretty stinky kitchens right now. 73 use stop. I'm just going to scroll a little bit. 55% timer and 1 to 9 buttons on the keypad. 52% 1 minute. 47% 10-second button. 35% mess with the power. You magical people. Defrost, you are the real MVPs here. I look forward to chatting to 20 of you after this. And then 15% other, 14% reheat meal. Why are the numbers going down? Oh, more people are voting. Okay. 12% people use the wait function. 11% people put on stuff for 10 minutes. 6% potatoes. Yes. Is it jacket potatoes? Anyone willing to share? Who's the potato people? Yep, 2, 3, 4. 4 hands up, thank you. Okay, turbo defrost, pasta. Ooh. Reheat bread, melt and soften, 2% rice, blasphemy, and 1% desserts. I did see some panels with the dessert function, which I'm very curious about. I guess that's like cakes and stuff, maybe? I don't know. But thank you so much for participating in, sorry? No. Thank you very much for participating in my totally just out of curiosity selfish little quiz there. So I hope that was fun. And I hope you found out more about how other people use microwaves, because I think that's something we don't talk about enough. Okay, so back to Harvey Norman. So Dad is pretty picky with his appliances. He was an electrical engineer before he did a career change in his final years of work, and he decided to become a DJ. His favorite catchphrase, I'm sure a lot of your folks or people you know might say this, is they don't make anything like they used to. And so he asked the store person what the best microwave was in Harvey Norman at the time, and we bought that one and we went home. But being completely blind, how could he possibly use this touch panel microwave? Any guesses? Oh, nice. Got some people saying lumps. Yes. So something that a lot of blind or low vision folks have at home is an assortment and many sets of what are called bump dots or tactile stickers. We have them all around the house. Like on his keyboard or on his computer monitor, his fax machine, which he still used because he could operate it, and he put it on speakerphone because if he held the phone up to his ear, his hearing aids would squeal. So I've got a couple of photos of those just so you can see what it looks like if you can see the screen. We've got the monitor there with a touch panel. Monitors during like that time of like late 2010s was super like flat touch, no buttons to speak of, no physical buttons to speak of, and so many functions. There's like 8 dots on that monitor. I don't know what. Anyway, he just needed the very right one, which was the power button, when he could see the monitor. And I've also got a picture of his keyboard. He had a very specific setup. It was important not just to have dots on the keys, but where on the key the dots were, like north, south, east, west, northeast. And he had two dots on his enter key just to be able to orient himself. A big mechanical keyboard fan, cherry red, if you're interested. He went through multiple in a year. So when we got home, I described the microwave touchpad to him, and the way that I did it was I would hold his hand and his finger and kind of move it around the touch panel and explain to him what each function was. He was like, why the heck do we need this function? And after going through all the different functions on the touch panel, he asked me to stick bumps on the reheat meal, the start and the stop buttons, and then he could use it with no problems after that. If you can see the screen, you can probably see a bit of wear and tear in that we refuse to take the plastic covers off anything. So you can see a bit of wear on the 1 minute button. We didn't need to put a bump sticker on that because he knew that the 1 minute button is next to the reheat button. So he would feel for the reheat button, and then if he needed 1 minute, he'll hit that one. It was very obvious that in the invention of the LCD, in the invention of the touch panel, that the blind and low vision community probably weren't thought of during this time. Whilst it wasn't the hardest thing to work around for Dad, it's just one example of exclusion. Heating up food is a pretty important part of daily life, But no one in the team who were in the microwave team in Panasonic at that time went, oh, should we, how do we make sure that everybody can use this? And if they had just thought to speak to literally one blind person, imagine how different the world of appliances would be. These examples are everywhere in modern appliances. So I've got a picture of a washing machine and then two completely flat stovetops underneath. Dad didn't bother with the washing machine because it was the one Mum liked. It was too hard for him to use, even with bump dots. You had to press 5 different buttons in a very certain order to pick the right setting or the right wash cycle you wanted. And once we stayed in an Airbnb, Dad every morning cooks his porridge on the stove. And that has, the usual knobs that you find on a gas stove. Once we stayed at an Airbnb, and he couldn't cook his own breakfast because the Airbnb had all these fancy new, completely flat, completely flush electric or induction stovetops. And again, probably for the same reasons that these are really, really popular. They're easy to clean because we're cooking food on them. They're easy to manufacture. Cheap to manufacture, and they're easily programmable, so you can add more functions to induction or electric stovetops because, of course, you'd want to add more functions to it. I could not work out how to use the buttons on the induction stovetop that we had at this Airbnb. I had to look up the manual. It's pretty wild. But not a single thought was given to maybe, on an electric stovetop, for a blind person to be able to find the buttons, they would have to feel. Yeah, everyone just winced a little bit just then. And so it was, pretty dangerous. And again, not one blind person was thought of during kind of the invention of this appliance. And another thing is that even disability tech companies get this wrong sometimes. So on the screen, I have a picture of Dad's hearing aids and a little device called a streamline box. He uses that to connect to his computer. And one of the instructions on in the manual was to turn on the streamline mic by holding down the MFB, whatever it is, until the power indicator is green. This takes approximately 3 seconds. So yes, Dad could totally see when the light indicator was green to be able to connect his streamline to the computer. That took both my parents a very long time to work that out because I wasn't home when they got these new hearing aids because Mum's English wasn't very good, so she couldn't read the manual. Also something that you may not know is that disability is rarely binary. It's a spectrum, and it's often something called comorbid, which means that a person with a particular disability often has multiple disabilities or multiple conditions, either related or unrelated. So Dad was not only blind, he was hard of hearing, and it was related to his retinitis pigmentosa. People with RP also have a higher chance of developing comorbid depression or anxiety, for example. So again, disability is not a very simple thing. There's a lot of nuance. And it's something to really think about when talking about it. So for my dad and many others, these little moments of exclusion or of feeling unconsidered, they do add up. It's like paper cuts. And has anyone noticed just how much more confusing some appliances are to use these days? Yeah. The evolution in overcomplicated appliance UX is actually a pretty good analogy for how websites and digital apps have evolved as well. I don't know if you feel they're pretty complicated. And sadly, you can't just use bump dots or sticky dots to make websites more accessible. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. Who enjoys a bit of internet history? That's great. All right. I won't feel like I'm dragging you down into this rabbit hole with me that I went on. So a lot of you have probably heard, you may not have, this quote from Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who invented the World Wide Web. The power of the web, it's in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. So Tim said this during a keynote during the second International World Wide Web and Mosaic conference in Chicago in October of 1994. Mosaic's an old web browser, around almost exactly 31 years ago. And what you may not know is that he only added this line in, or this quote in, that is now quoted everywhere. In particular, I felt very called out when I read a blog post about this particular quote, because every accessibility talk uses this quote. I'm like, oh, I'm a cliche. Okay. But what you may not know is that he only added this quote to his keynote after attending a pre-conference workshop run by a guy called Mike Paciello. On the screen, I've got a picture of Tim Berners-Lee on the second to the left, and 3 other people to his right, who I have no idea who they are, but they seem cool. And then on Tim Berners-Lee left, I've overlaid a picture of Mike Paciello. I was so intrigued by this little offhand comment in the Wikipedia page for web accessibility. Yes, I was on there recently. I don't know why. I had to go digging. And I still haven't found evidence of the exact workshop that was mentioned. For those who don't know Mike Paciello, he's a little bit of a godfather in digital accessibility. And when I found myself reading through discussion threads from 1994, it's what was called a mailing list. For those who may be a bit young, it's like Reddit, but without downvoting. I saw 2 threads in particular started by Mike. And those threads were titled, sorry, I just got to, Mosaic 94, accessibility is an issue in all caps, and www, Mosaic and access for people with disabilities. What is very cool is that in these threads probably would have been some of the first mentions of digital accessibility ever in online discussions. And on the screen, I've got some more screenshots of a particular message titled Mosaic 94, accessibility is an issue. So Mosaic was released in 1993 as a browser that was the first browser to display images inline. Before that, they were displayed in a separate window. Very exciting. And what, you don't have to read it, it's very small. But what this message thread was Mike Paciello going, I've received this email from someone named TV Rahman. I've got TV Rahman pictured in the top right corner with his very gorgeous guide dog, Asta. So TV Rahman sent Mike an email saying, given that there have been some interest on issues of making HTML friendlier to applications producing output in alternative formats, could we pull together a meeting at the Mosaic conference to address these questions? And Mike forwarded this email to the thread and said, at the moment, I'm not funded nor financially in a position to attend Mosaic 94. I'm working on this one way or another. I plan to get there. Another fun fact about TV Rahman, he actually developed a screen reader for technical papers, and he named it after his guide dog, Asta. But he made it stand for Audio System for Technical Readings. Love backronyms. So thank you for staying with me on this journey. We're really deep in the rabbit hole. Mike soon went on to write the first book on web accessibility and co-founded the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, Web Accessibility Initiative, WAI, or W3CY is what we call it. It almost got named W3C WAP. I'm glad we avoided that, which later published the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines first version in 1999. And this has been the global standard for accessibility for over 20 years. We're now up to version 2.2. Things move slowly. 3 might be here in the next 10 years. They're working on it. So Mike started a company that grew many of today's most influential accessibility leaders around the globe. This is still around. It's called the Paciello Group, or TPGI. He's also contributed to just about every global legislation that involves digital accessibility. Him and Tim Berners-Lee were also honoured by former US President Bill Clinton for their important work on making the web more inclusive to all. So even though Tim and Mike, as far as I know, didn't have a disability themselves, they absolutely understood that it needed to happen and made the deliberate decision to make sure that people who did have lived experience were thought of and included in the early days of the web from the very beginning. And it had a huge impact. In the very early web, and Windows XP had really, really great accessibility built in. And the early web accessibility movement was started by many amazing people who are still doing important work every day, and I wish I had the time to dive into the origin story of all of them, because it's super interesting. So, final story about my dad. Since he retired for this talk, since he retired in 1995, he goes on the computer pretty much every day. He's actually been working on the same project for over 20 years. He's trying to create the world's most complete archive of old songs, all the way back to the 1920s or even earlier. I think there's some from 1901. He does this by scraping the internet and downloading MP3s and editing, legally, and editing their metadata in an app called MP3 Tag Studio. On the screen, I've included a screenshot of MP3 Tag Studio and also, hopefully, a very nostalgic picture of the Windows XP download dialog. And this is a video of Dad in action. Right now, he's copy-pasting information about artists and recording dates into a song on MP3 Tag Studio. It's a little bit small, so apologies, you probably can't see that very well. You can't hear the sound, unfortunately, for this video, but Dad's using what's called a screen reader, which is a piece of software that reads out what's happening on the screen in a synthetic voice. So it's reading out to him currently which input box he's in and what he's doing on the computer. And his computer is actually in the room below us. This is a video in our dining room. We're sitting upstairs, and he's using a Bluetooth keyboard, and the screen reader is streaming into his hearing aid, which is why I couldn't record the sound. And he hasn't used a screen in maybe 10 years, except for when Mum needs to troubleshoot every now and again. So despite my dad being tech-savvy, he still hits accessibility issues on 9 out of every 10 websites and desktop applications that he uses. Because we don't live together all the time, I use a remote desktop app called AnyDesk, similar to TeamViewer if you've used that before. So I could jump onto his computer whenever he needed and had full access to his mouse and keyboard to help unblock him with whatever he was doing, mostly due to a poorly built website that didn't consider accessibility. And sometime in 2020, I can't remember exactly what happened. I think he was really struggling with a music discography website that kept resetting his cursor up to the top, something super common in React websites. And each song took him nearly an hour to fill in the metadata into MP3 Tag Studio. And he had hundreds to do for this time period that he was working on. When the website had pretty good accessibility, it would take him around 5-10 minutes, if that. And when he finally called me, in the 20 years that he'd been using the web, I'd yet to have witnessed him break down the way that he did. And so when you're faced with barriers just about every day, in just about everything you try to do, even if you can mostly work around them, it does add up. And it's especially shitty when you have no other options. And this was the only website he could use to find the information he needed for that time period. So like any frustrated millennial, I went on Twitter about it. Hopefully this loads. So I tweeted, "Today, my dad cried over the phone. He wanted 1 week where he could use his computer without my help. He's blind. Each inaccessible web page tells him, you aren't welcome in this world. If you don't know whether your website or app is accessible, it's not. Start learning." And overnight, this tweet really started to blow up. A lot of blind folks replying and sharing similar stories, a lot of people asking, what can I do, where can I start? A few reply guys and girls here and there, it's Twitter. And I want to say, I'm not usually this stern. In the accessibility community, we're not here to make people feel bad about not knowing about digital accessibility or how to do it. We want to help, but every now and again it does get a little bit frustrating. So on the screen, I have 4 of many hundreds of replies and reposts of people who shared their own stories of feeling that they're not welcome in our digital society. Someone said, yes, this, as a legally blind person, I completely understand your dad. My heart goes out to him, and I totally agree with you. Start learning. Someone else said, if you're blind or deaf, in my case, there's a whole lot of things that are not accessible, and we have the tech, but it's not used. So many programs, announcements, adverts don't use audio descriptions or subtitles. People don't realize how bad it is because they don't ever need it. And then my wife, a software developer who lost most of her vision in young adulthood, adapted and navigated all the challenges she faces in real world and in tech, but it hasn't been easy. Tech should be an empowering tool for the visually impaired, but too often it's an obstacle. On the screen, I have my favorite quote. I have so many quotes in my talk. On my screen, I have my favorite quote about inclusive design. From a book about inclusive design. For better or for worse, the people who design the touch points of society determine who can participate and who's left out, often unwittingly. And this is in a book called Mismatch by Kat Holmes. If design is the source of mismatches and exclusion, can it also be the remedy? Yes, but it does take work. To phrase this another way, we decide who is welcome by the small choices that we make to consider who might be left out. And before I wrap up, I want to play a video for you. It's a snippet of a video games review done by someone called Ross Minor. He's a multi-award-winning gaming, media, and technology accessibility consultant who's also an avid Twitch streamer and YouTuber. So please do follow him on YouTube. And what I'm about to play is a video of him doing a review of a video game called Forza. Has anyone heard of Forza? Yep, about half. It's a racing game, and it's, I think, the first racing game to be completely playable by blind gamers. So
the amazing thing about this is that I've seen blind drivers who have much less assist than I do. And so the fact that they're able to get that good and get down to that level is just awesome, and it wouldn't have been done if it weren't for these accessibility features. So just so happy to see that. So yeah, I'm going to show an example of my driving when I first began playing the game on Twitch and where my driving is at now, just to highlight how much better I've gotten already. So here is the video of me driving on Twitch. I'm not paying attention. Okay. As you can see, I'm literally all over the place. But here is a video of me driving now.
Score 1.0. Personal best for segment elevator bend. Personal best segment plus 20.
So as you can see, my driving has already improved significantly.
I highly recommend watching that whole review. Ross goes through all the accessibility features and how they actually worked out how to help enable driving to be possible by folks who can't see the screen. Oh, and it's still playing, sorry. Please, next slide. Okay, so we, the builders and designers of the web, we decide who is welcome. And we decide this in the small choices that we make every day. And by being deliberate in who we include in small ways, we can have a huge impact. I wanted to share some resources if this is something that is new for you. The book Mismatch by Kat Holmes, really, really amazing read really shifted my mindset in terms of inclusive design. There's a Netflix movie called Crip Camp, completely free on YouTube now, so you don't need a Netflix subscription to watch it, which the movie is a historical documentary about the Americans with Disabilities movement. I can't remember when now, I think back in the 90s, and about a bit of history of accessibility, the disability revolution. And for those who also want to learn a little bit more about disability, there's an amazing book by Emily Ladau called Demystifying Disability, which is a great 101 on disability if it's not a topic that you've know too much about, and also talks about the language of disability as well, and how to get more comfortable talking about it, because I often find that's a bit of a kind of initial barrier for folks who are a bit scared of saying the wrong thing when talking about disability and accessibility. So great book that really introduces all the concepts in a really, really friendly way. And lastly, let's make sure that we build with and not for. Make sure the right people are involved in the apps that we design and the technology that we design. Sit with people and hear their stories. And in particular for today and the rest of the conference, please share your stories. And I think the reason why I wanted to give this style of talk was storytelling is so important, because we are building software and technology for people. But I feel like we should share more stories about the people we're building the software for, and that's really, really important. So please share your stories today about kind of more personal side of technology, not just about disability, but about maybe points of inclusion or discrimination in general. That sounds really heavy, but yeah, please share your stories. Let's talk more about the people side of things. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the conference. I can't wait to watch all of your talks and get to meet you. Thank you.